Hello everyone, my name is Guy, and today we are going to go over port forwarding. All this is some terms to get from one device to another device that is normally behind a router. So let's go ahead and start by adding some outside objects. Add a phone, a computer, add in our home router, and let's add in some computers. We want to host a game server on this computer here. So we type in ipconfig, we see an IP address that we have for it, and on our game we see that we have a port that is actively used by this game. This was in the documentation when we were setting up the game server. So now that we have this IP address and this port, we want our friend over here, this computer, to connect over the internet to play at our game server. So in order to do this, what we need to do is first we need to know the public IP address of our home network. So the public IP address that our ISP has given us happens to be 172.152.2.32. And if we want to connect to this specific game port right here, we need to put a colon on the end and have 25565. So this is the actual full address that this computer is going to type in. So that computer will then go and type in that IP address. This is connected to the internet. It comes over here, and this is where the magic happens. In this router here, we have logged into our router and set up that says if you see any traffic on port 25565, please forward that over here to this IP address 192.168.0.155. So anytime this computer communicates and sends traffic to this public address with this port, it comes to the router, which then says, I know this port number. It needs to go to this IP address. So then let's say that we have some web services on this computer here. These web services are on port 80. So in order for somebody from the outside in, they need to have our public IP address followed by the port number. So this phone over here is going to type in this number here, and then they are going to connect to the internet, and then it's going to come back over here to the router and say, hey, I would like to connect to port 80. When the router sees this, it says, okay, I have a rule set up that whenever I see port 80, I will send the traffic to this IP address. And in just a minute, we are going to dive into some router settings to see what this looks like in a real life example. Okay, and for our real life example here, let's go ahead and log into our router. We are going to use that password that we changed. And now if we were connected to the internet, you would see that 172 number down here. After we go to our advanced setup, we need to go to network address translation forwarding. On this TP-Link router, it's under the virtual servers. So then we would go over here and click on add. Service type, we can type in anything. So I'm going to type in gaming server. And for our external port, we are going to 25565. Our internal IP address that we want to send it to. And for our internal port, 25565. For our protocol, if you do not know if it is TCP or UDP, just leave it on all by clicking save. We have now completed that loop. So when we connect to our IP address starting in 172, it will hit this router, and it will see that the port is for 25565. It will then reroute that traffic to this internal IP address to this internal port number. All right, so let's say that we have done all the port forwarding and this game is still not working for some reason. So what we are going to do is we are going to go into our control panel, going to go into system and security. We are going to click on our Windows Defender firewall. After we get into here, we are going to go down to advanced settings, and we are going to click on inbound rules. We are going to right click on new rule. And after we have this here, we are going to go to our port because we want to open up a specific port. And this is if you've already tried the program. So if you had a specific program that was allowed through the firewall and you still weren't allowing that connection, I would go down here to port because we know exactly which port that we are going to use. So I'm going to click on next. First, I'm going to create a rule for TCP followed by UDP. I'm going to type in the specific port, 25565. Then I will click next. I'm going to click allow this connection. next. And also I'm going to only apply this domain rule when I am at home as a private network. So this will ensure if I forget to turn off this rule, that when I am in a public network, such as a coffee shop, it will not allow that port to be open. So now since I have private selected, I will click next, going to call this gaming service, and then I'm going to click on finish. And now here you can see we have our new rule right here. And I'm going to do the same exact steps except for UDP.